Deputy Pat Casey, 10 minutes.
Thank you. As newly appointed spokesman on housing and urban renewal, I want to welcome the Joint Committee report on housing and homelessness and state that I firmly believe that its membership under the chairmanship of my colleague John Curran have produced a comprehensive document which understands the depth and breadth of the Irish housing and homeless crisis. I would like to go further and state that the way the Housing and Homeless Committee was formed, conducted its business and hopefully is being taken up by ministerial and government action is a template of how new politics in the Dáil can work. I say this deliberately in a week where many are questioning new politics. I think we all agree that the seriousness of the housing crisis can be reflected in the fact that not one single aspect of housing policy in Ireland is functioning correctly at the moment. Emergency accommodation homelessness is beyond breaking point, with over 2,000 children being homeless. And I want to say it again in the Chamber, over 2,000 children are homeless in Ireland today, in the Irish Republic of 2016. I welcome Minister Sapone's meeting with Children's Agency today. In relation to this, I also pledge my support to practical and immediate measures to help these families. The rental sector has spiralled out of control for existing tenants and out of reach for prospective tenants. There is a shortage of private accommodation and a lack of realistic mortgage availability. And then there is the fact that the Irish state, and in particular local authorities, have seemingly forgotten how to build houses, and just as crucial, managing the housing supply. The right of a person to a home, to a shelter, is a fundamental duty of any functioning state. In my view, the Irish state has had reasonable positive stories with regard to housing for much of its history. But the period since the economic crash has thrown the entire housing sector into disarray. I'm in UTD, but I've been a local representative for 12 years. Yet I'm truly shocked at the amount of serious housing issues that I've been dealing with Wicklow and East Carlow since the general election in February. Over 75% of all my constituency representation made to me have been in relation to housing, and they are all extremely serious. And I'm sure every deputy has a similar report to make. I have welcomed the seriousness that the Minister has given to this issue, and I've also welcomed the recent increase in the rent supplement. But in certain areas the increase is nowhere near what the market can demand in rent. For example, in North Wicklow is now at South Dublin levels for private rental rates, so the increase in rent supplement will be of limited assistance to residents of towns of Bray, Gorey, Wicklow and Arklow. Further attention will be needed to ensure that the intention of the rent supplement increase follows through to results on the ground in the high pressure areas such as Wicklow's commuter belt. And again, I accept the lack of supply is driving rental prices up. But there must be a limit to rent increase in pressure areas while supply is being addressed. To tackle the urgent lack of supply, I particularly support the proposed vacant properties audit, which I believe should be carried out immediately by local authorities. There are vacant properties that, with some remedial work, can be made into habitable accommodation in every town and village in Ireland, and I know that they exist in Wicklow and East Carlow. There is an urgent requirement, and if additional personnel is needed, to be temporarily deployed by local authorities to identify these properties, well then so be it. Lateral thinking should also be employed here. For example, all Tidy Towns groups could be contacted as to help identify vacant properties. We are told that every local authority area has a functioning public participation network representing the community and voluntary groups in the county. They could be contacted immediately in order to help in this research. The housing crisis demands solidarity of action from all in civic and public society. The identification and upgrade of vacant properties would also have a knock-on effect of directly assisting urban renewal, which is required in our efforts to maximise the accommodation capacities of our urban centres, both in large urban cities, towns and villages. The immediate possibility of vacant properties delivering 6,000 habitable accommodations, as identified in the report, must be seriously looked at and come with a suite of targeted incentives. As stated in the report, the obvious answer to the housing and homeless crisis is increasing the supply of housing. There are specific and ambitious targets set out in the report, with an overall increase of 50,000 units, with an annual average of 10,000 units through acquisition, refurbishments and new builds. Every local authority will have to be significantly up their game in relation to achieving these targets, but where they have a valid concerns, they must be actioned upon by government. There can be no room for tough war or bruised egos in this time of a national crisis, and each of us has a constructive role to play here. At the first meeting of the Housing, Planning and Local Government Select Committee, I raised the current underspend reflected in this year's estimate, and in fairness to Minister Coveney, assured me that delivery of the spend is 2.5 times faster than it was this time last year. As we are entering the early stages of the new budget preparations, I urge the Government to urgently seek EU approval to achieve the flexibility in the fiscal rules as the report recommends. The financing of social housing should be explained as a matter of vital national interest, where EU solidarity with the Irish people should be shown. As England deals now with the outcome of Brexit, they are looking towards a further reduction in interest rates and another possible round of quantitative easing. Europe fell behind England by a number of years the last time this happened, especially in relation to quantitative easing. It's time to loosen the fiscal rules, and investing in a social housing programme in Ireland will be one way of both stimulating the economy while addressing our urgent housing needs. I don't have time, unfortunately, to address issues in relation to mortgage, planning, the role of NAMA and all the other issues that was raised in this crisis. But these are other important issue strands in addressing the housing that cannot be left to one side. All aspects of housing policy, management and delivery will have to change if we are to get on top of this crisis. There is need to be relentless and ruthless political leadership shown by everyone in this House to meet the ambitious but purposive targets set out in this report. Consistent political diligence and focus, particularly when the media attention shifts, as it inevitably will, is a further requirement of all deputies in this House. For my part, I can assure this House that I will fulfil my responsibility as Fianna Fáil spokesman in a collective, inclusive and patriotic fashion, and will support all realistic solutions from all elements of this Dáil, government and opposition. Our actions in relation to housing will be rightly seen as the key indicator as to the effectiveness of new politics. This report is an excellent start. Let's take up the baton and continue the work. Thank you.
Now we have